So our goal today, of course, is to look at search a little bit holistically, to try to isolate what it is now that we do for SEO and what we could be doing in the future to plan ahead. Do voice devices matter? Virtual assistants, when people are searching for those, are they important to what we should be planning as businesses? Are there ways that we can incorporate voice and other things into our content strategy so that that we're staying aware of it? Do we need to worry about when Google makes updates, when they say, hey, we're going to change the name of our algorithm to something new, we're going to call it Bert, then we're going to call it Mum, then we're going to call it something else? And do we got to refresh everything we're doing for SEO to be able to to handle those kind of updates, or do we just kind of wait them out and see our results go back to normal? So we're going to talk through all of that in a few minutes. I've got about 600 slides that we're going to fly through. No, it's not really that many, but there's quite a few. And I know some of you are already in the back end thinking, future of search, you mean Apple search, like Apple bot? So, haha, yeah, maybe, actually, who knows? But I can tell you that there's a lot of rumors right now that Apple is, starting its own search engine, and that's, for those folks that are very Apple brand loyalty, oriented, that Apple search and the Apple bot might be something to look out for. That's the first thing I wanted to bring up. I didn't really talk about it here in the slides, but I wanted to bring it up because I know someone's going to say, what about Apple search? So keep your eyes open for that. We don't know what's going to happen, but based on their first round of doing maps back in the day, I wouldn't expect a lot up front. I think they're going to learn a little bit from their users, how their search works, and hopefully evolve it over time once it launches. So let's get the show on the road. So search how we know it today. Here's how sites are currently ranked when you're looking at why a listing appears in an organic search result. And we're not really going to get into Google Maps a lot, or e-commerce search, or some of the other ways that people are searching. We're going to talk a little bit generally about your search in general. So the first thing is just making sure the page that you have is the most relevant. I always get that question of, why isn't my page, or why isn't my website ranking for this keyword? And I respond with, well, what page are you trying to rank? And almost immediately the business owner or the person who's asking the question goes, wait, I have to create a separate page for each non-branded search term that I want to appear for? And in many cases, yeah, if you're a personal injury lawyer and everything you do is personal injury, then your homepage is probably going to show up for that because it's a category or a topic, not necessarily a search term or a service. So in most cases, you'll see for those types of queries, that is the homepage. But most of the time, if it's, I'm looking for a car accident lawyer, a truck accident lawyer, it's going to be site.com/practice areas/car accident lawyer.html. And that page will be optimized with helpful content that other websites that appear have. It'll be mobile friendly, and it'll have all the attributes that we'll talk through in a bit. It also needs to be the most visible. So Google in general uses PageRank, as a lot of you instructors know. And as again, as we're teaching students a little bit about how to think ahead about what's coming in search, one of the things that we have to remind them of is that Google's core algorithm was based on this thing called PageRank that Larry Page created in '98 at Stanford, and it holds true today that Googlebot will crawl through links. It hits a link, it reads the text, it tries to understand the importance and the relevance of the text that's in the link, and then it passes a vote to the page that's being linked to. And that vote can be more powerful than the content itself. If other websites are linking to that page and saying, hey, this is really helpful as it relates to the topic that I've written about on this page where I'm linking to that page. So the visibility part is very important in earning links and mentions of the business. But be careful with this one, because this is something, if you're using it to manipulate search results rather than influence them, it could be problematic and even get you in trouble. Great, so let's keep going. And then being the most helpful. So great, our content is better than the competition. Our visibility is more robust than the competition. We've earned more links and mentions. But when users see our results and we're there on page one, and like the SEO expert example I gave earlier, we're on page one, and there's 10 results to choose. Why should they choose me? They don't know who I am. They don't know who the other 9 listings are. Why should they pick me? So we want to make sure that our listing stands out and is rich and contains all sorts of helpful content, such as frequently asked questions, or an image or video thumbnail next to it, or star ratings if it's a product or a service. Anything that we can do to stand out. So that most helpful part is really, when somebody asks and the student says, hey teach, how long is it going to take me to rank for a keyword? You can say, well, in the first couple months, it's going to be your content that Google's going to crawl and test your page for the words that you're using on the page. In the next few months, they're going to look at your visibility and seeing how helpful that page is, both from your own content and from other websites linking in. And then probably from month 6 to 12, they're going to watch and see how you perform when they do start slowly dripping you into the first page. So it's probably going to take you a good part of a year to get into the top search results for a competitive keyword, probably a moderate competitive keyword, content, links, and then that user behavior signal. That's how sites are ranked. And Google's even said this a few times. Most important ranking signals are content and links pointing to your website. So here's the key areas of focus for 2022 and beyond. And I've modified this a bit. If you've seen this presentation and a few of the other webinars that I've given, I've updated it to some of the things that we're paying close attention to right now after some of the recent updates that Google's gotten a little bit smarter with how they approach search. They're using artificial intelligence. If you ask an engineer, why is this page ranking, they probably can't tell you, not because they don't want to or aren't allowed to, but because the AI is doing so much of the work on its own. So it's up to us as practitioners, as teachers, to study what Google's displaying and try to reverse engineer and understand why. The first part is technical, and Google's made a big point about this whole page experience area of technical SEO that's going to be really important for us to pay attention to. But it also includes security, accessibility, privacy. It includes page speed and how fast our pages load. It involves making sure the user can convert easily and not go back to the search results and choose a competitor. Contextual, and I've added knowledge graphs to this. This is becoming more and more important. It's really interesting when we look at the search results now and study them to see what it is Google's displaying and what's in the content itself. What are the topics or entities that are being mentioned in those competing pages that we could introduce into our copy? And then off page. So this is, again, that visibility signal and link graphs. Are we linking to the most important pages the most often? Or are we linking to our blogs and privacy policy pages the most often and telling the search engines that these pages are more important than our lower funnel pages that convert customers? So page experience. And there's a video in here too. When you do get this slideshow later, feel free to click it, or you can go right to that developer page, watch the video and learn more about how page experience is becoming one of the stronger technical SEO focal points. Core Web Vitals gets a little bit complicated to explain to students. So you might try to take it slow or come up with some visual examples, or maybe like an animated GIF or something to show what some of those core Web Vitals are. I'm not going to get into them today because it's really techy and geeky, but there are 3 main areas that you'll want to focus around, and it involves the mobile user having an experience where the content they need loads right away and doesn't shift or move around as they're trying to navigate the web page. Mobile friendly, we're not going to beat a dead horse here, but we're definitely going to talk a lot about mobile. HTTPS and having no pop-ups. They call them intrusive interstitials. Pop-ups, right? Try to avoid pop-ups unless it's, hey, welcome to our site. We'd love to give you 15% off by joining our club. Okay, that's fine. Pop-up is, we care about your privacy. Click here to opt out or opt in or whatever. Those are okay. But if it's intrusive and they have to figure out where the X is, or it covers the whole page and they can't see the rest of the content because you're doing like a gated home image or something, then that could be problematic. So knowledge graph, and this is really interesting because there's the knowledge panel. Of course, when you perform a search on desktop, you see a panel on the right-hand side, and they source a lot of that data from common data sources like Wikipedia and other websites. But now we're talking about the knowledge graph itself, all the information that Google has around an entity. So as I mentioned, in terms of how we want to look at competing pages, one of the things that I'll do is I'll perform a search. Say I'm Skechers and I decide, hey, I want to show up for how to clean white shoes. That's my audience. I need those type of people to come in so I can do some remarketing to them. And so you've got this how to clean white shoes. Instead of just randomly writing a page, hey, I want to rank #1 for how to clean white shoes. I'm going to give this to an article writer, write me an article, I'll be #1. That worked 15 years ago. That's not going to work today. Today, you've got to take the time and study the results that are appearing in the search results. And notice in the screenshot, you can see subtopics: how to clean white canvas, leather, white mesh. You go down to some of the structured content, the rich results in this result, and you see the same thing. You see rubber, plastic, right? So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to do what these folks are doing, but maybe do it a little bit better and have your page be easier to navigate, use, and hopefully convert the user into either a subscriber or to a customer. And then look at the diversity of the results. Notice there's a video, there's some steps, there's also images down here. Notice more steps starting to appear in search results. So it seems pretty clear to me, as we're going to write a page for how to clean white shoes, that we probably need a checklist. We probably need to address all of the different methods and subtopics, even if we don't agree with them. Some people believe you should use toothpaste for this, toothpaste as a solution, H2 tag, heading tag. And then you go in and say, we don't necessarily think this is the best way, right? And that's okay. You've at least addressed the entity, and you put yourself among the folks that are already ranking because you've talked about those topics. And then look at the other relevant or related results that appear in the search results. Are we addressing those? Are we addressing the questions and the people also ask section? Think about that as you're creating your page, and the knowledge graph. And this all plays a role into that knowledge graph and making sure from a entity standpoint that we're talking about the same things that the pages that already appear are talking about. Link graphs. I mentioned a few minutes ago about using internal links to point to our most important pages. Here's Dr. Bronner. Is the blog the most important page to link to tell the search engines this is the most important page on our website? Is the about page? Maybe store locator. I could see that. Is terms of use or privacy? Probably not. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're sort of sculpting our internal links to point the most links to the most important pages and less links to pages that are less important for us to appear in search results for. So that's sort of the premise of a strong internal linking strategy. And then I like a tool called Ahrefs Link Intersect. And Ahrefs is this cool little site among many. My favorite, of course, is SEMrush, but they don't have this Link Intersect tool yet. Hopefully they will at some point. What you do is you drop your competitors into this tool, and don't use Amazon or eBay. Use a direct competitor who only does what you do, or mostly does just what you do. And then you put in your website down here. And what it does is it runs an intersect to figure out where the common links are that competitors are earning that you haven't earned yet, which is a great way to address Google's whole link graph, because now you're going to get links where the industry is, and they're going to categorize us even without content on our page, simply because we appear in the same places that our competition has. A lot of this stems from inspiration that I got from my friend Scott over at MarketBrew. And Scott Stoffer he's a search engineer, and he's absolutely genius. And he created this MarketBrew program, and he proved that this is a real thing. So it's super cool. Check out MarketBrew for more of that kind of content. So mobile devices. This is still an important thing, and it's shocking to me how so many brands still don't prioritize mobile. And it's like you look at the traffic and like, wow, most of our traffic is coming from mobile. Well, I'm going to give you something that you can give to your students to give to their future bosses to fight that battle, to give them some arsenal. The first thing is this particular screenshot from a restaurant chain. This is I think it was just the last week, and we're looking at sessions and the percentage that were coming from mobile. 83% of the traffic coming to restaurants, for the most part, is coming from mobile devices. So it's almost silly to not prioritize mobile over desktop, yet most designers, still web designers, design the page based on desktop. So yeah, and then tablet, I don't know, there's some people that still use tablet, but I definitely wouldn't prioritize it. What devices are they using? Here's a shocker. I was actually super shocked that Apple iPhone was the #1 device. 66% of sessions that result in transactions are coming from Apple devices. So in your testing, in your cross-browser and other testing that you're going to be recommending to students to do, take a look at the data too once you've got it in analytics. But you can see testing needs to be done on Apple devices as a priority, which makes sense why a lot of the apps I like to use, I can't because I am a loser with a Pixel. But you can also see that in some cases, the Androids can convert at a little bit of a higher rate. So your Android users are still really important. Apple users like to shop a little bit. Maybe they're a different type of customer. I don't know. But the fact is 66% are coming from iPhone. What about in other industries that aren't local? What about online watch stores? Do I really care? It should be desktop now, because now, nobody wants to purchase on a mobile device and put, a $5,000 payment into, a watch on a mobile. They do 70% luxury watch site, and there's a little bit of revenue in here. This is just taking into account a month's revenue on a luxury watch site that we help with. And you can see mobile is still killing it, but desktop does convert at twice the rate, but you're only going to get about 26% of your visitors from that. So important to pay attention to both, but mobile is still the priority here. So how do we solve for mobile? What are some of the things that we can do to address mobile users, especially thinking ahead? Most importantly, and this has been something they've been shoving down our throats now for the good part of 4 years, is really making sure that our pages load fast. And I say under 2 seconds if you can. Gary Iles at a search conference several years ago, who's a trends analyst who's watching Search Console and search trends, says, millennials in general won't wait 2 seconds for a page to load. Like 1, 2, on board, they go back and they're gone. So page speed's super, super critical. Get rid of all the extra JavaScripts and functionality and sliders and carousels. You don't need all that. They don't care. The little clock ticking numbers that you have in a tile across your site, the video you have in the background in your hero banner, the user doesn't care. That's not helping you convert. Get rid of all that. Strip it out. Keep your site simple. And this is just a screenshot from them just preaching about how important speed is and actually stating that it's a ranking signal. So it's not just Adjunct Professor Wiideman thinks that speed is important. No, this is directly from Google. This is an important idea too, as you start to ingrain these best practices into students, is to not just be focused on being mobile friendly, right? But being optimized for mobile. And I draw inspiration on that quote from what my boss at Disney used to always say, something very similar. Hey, it's not about being search engine friendly. It's being optimized to appear in search. And so this is what you convey is it's if we pass these tools, these validation tools, we're not done, right? You can't just say, hey, I passed the Google mobile friendly test, we're done with mobile, because the reality is users are still going to go to that page. And if it's hard to use for them as a real person, not a robot, then we've got a challenge. So I always try to focus on making sure that we're trying to improve the conversion rates, try to improve the bounce rates, try to improve the overall experience of the user on our mobile, not just try to pass a mobile friendly test. Let's keep going. So here was one that we did. It was a 30-day test. Oh, my font got wrapped around. Oh, well. So this is Bob's Watches, different consignment site specifically for Rolex. And they had this audacious form, or egregious looking form down here. You can see they had a vertical scroll. So we looked at some of the top mobile sites that were out there. We studied some of the case studies on conversion rate optimization for mobile. And we came up with a design, the first version, that had a video at the top. So there's some authenticity. Hi, you've reached a real, site with a real business. Behind me is the office. We're based here in Newport Beach, blah, blah, blah. My name's Paul, I'm the CEO. I've been doing much selling for 12 years. We're one of the best in the business. You can trust us. It's safe, secure, guaranteed, warranties, all that stuff. And then they cut the form down to just one field. All they have to do is put in their email, and then another field would appear. So it kept the experience super underwhelming in terms of feeling like, oh my God, I got to fill out all these crazy forms. So it works by just doing this one test, over a 30-day period. We saw some massive improvements in conversion rate and the number of conversions, and our organic results started to improve. 6 months later, it was much better than that. And then it's ranking examples. Again, this is kind of an old screenshot from an old search console, but just to give you an idea, you could see our positions for the most part, and probably even still today, if you do a search for sell Rolex or any of these queries, you're probably still going to see Bob's Watches among the top results. So SEO was simple, right? It was really just around keeping things, content off page, and paying attention to user behavior signals. And there's a lot more that we have to pay attention to now, but it's still simple. There's still things that we that we want to keep our eye on, the awesome content, keeping healthy traffic coming in beyond just SEO. Drives me crazy when clients put all of their marketing eggs in one basket and just do SEO, and then Google makes an update and they drop out of the search results temporarily, and then they panic because they put everything into organic instead of experimenting with paid and paid social and email marketing and affiliate marketing. So many other things they could do to diversify the different streams of traffic that are coming in. Scott, what's up? I love you too, buddy. Fast forward to today. Here are the key areas of focus now, right? We want to solve for the user's intent. Still important to make sure our page is the most helpful, but we don't need to shove keywords in titles anymore, right? But they've figured a lot of that out. We still want to use a keyword in copy so that Google crawls and tests us for those keywords, but long term, it's not going to matter as much. They're more interested in making sure that, you know, we're solving the actual problem that the person's looking for, and less about the keyword itself. Solving for hands-free. So here's an example, and there's our guy down here on the phone. Now, most new cars that are coming out have onboard Alexas and other assistant devices that allow for search. So let's figure out how can we solve for hands-free so that people can still get the information they need through their voice query and maybe even transact with us without ever touching their phone. That's where we want to go. Solving for attribution, also very important. It's neat to see that organic played a big role, but maybe the first time that they saw us was in a social ad or in a paid ad. Maybe we brought them back after an organic search through a paid ad or something else. They all play together well and support a strong integrated omni-channel marketing strategy. It's like, here's an SEO guy telling us to do other things other than SEO. Yeah, pretty much. And then preventing penalties, stay out of the sandboxes, if you will. So going back into the history of search, we can't do anything manipulative anymore. Our old friends that some of them aren't even there anymore, like Matt Cutts and Miley, John Mueller's still with Google, but basically in 2011, 2012, and from that point, they've been working to improve search quality by identifying what is trying to manipulate search results and what's not. And you're going to see a lot of spam still, unfortunately. If you try to game the search results with buying links or something like that, you're going to get hit. But there's still some things that people are doing that Google hasn't caught on to yet. And so I encourage everybody, as you see those, use the feedback link in Google and make sure you're letting them know that you're saying spam. And they've made multiple points about this, about violations. Any links intended to manipulate PageRank or sites ranking in Google search results could be considered part of a link scheme. And I put the link schemes link there so you can check it out. In fact, I would set up an alert through visual ping, visual PING, so that anytime Google changes any of these core documents and guidelines and SEO starter guides, that you get notified so that you can let the students know, hey, students, I just want to let you know there was an update in an important document. Here's what changed that you want to be aware of, so that when you go in for that interview, you can sound informed about what's going on in search. How not to SEO, right? Stop trying to trick search engines. We just need really great, helpful content. We need to work on making sure that content's visible off our website. And we need to make sure that users want to click on our result because we stand out. I always remember that Super Bowl commercial where the encyclopedia sales were going nuts. And at the end, it shows this kid just clicking the heck out of it. So don't buy software or use Mechanical Turk to get people to search and click. That SEO expert story was from 2006. You can't do that today. In fact, you'd probably get a penalty if you did. So please stay away from anything that feels like you're trying to game search results, and focus on those three areas, everyone. Did I improve the quality and helpfulness of my content? Did I improve the visibility of my content? Did I improve my click-through rates in the search results by improving the search appearance that I see in search? Black hat techniques are dying. And it's one of my favorite quotes. And I turned it into an SEO quote, but it was Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn always says you don't have to do extraordinary things to be successful. You only have to do ordinary things extraordinarily well. And that's what I'm trying to get at as you're working with these students, is to focus around the principles. There's going to be a lot of techniques that they're going to be tempted with. They're going to see lots of ads and tools and link buying and emails that they're going to feel like, wow, this guy can get me a link from Forbes. And, it's really important to instill the idea that if we focus on the three principles and we pour water and sunlight on those things, we're going to beat the competition. Competition's going to try those hacks. They're going to try those techniques. And in 6 months to a year, they're going to be gone and they're going to have to start all over. And our garden's going to be deep rooted and we're not going to have to worry about negative SEO and other things because we've done things right. All right, security and privacy, also super, super important, getting more important every day. There's a whole privacy and security section in Google's documents. I'm missing a Y in my slide. HTTPS everywhere, really, really important. Here's Pierre Farr talking about how important it's going to be to make sure all of our pages are secure and have HTTPS. Otherwise, if we're taking credit card information on an HTTP URL, the user might get something that looks like this. And not only will you lose the sale, but your rankings are going to plummet. I think we've all seen these before, right? And we don't want our customers to see them. So we want to make sure not only are our URLs HTTPS, but all of our links within our website. If you're going into your web server, your web hosting and running a SQL command, do a find replace for anything that's HTTP : to HTTPS : That's going to be the way to do it so that you make sure that all of your internal URLs include HTTPS. Now, how do we solve for user intent? Content. And that's going to be the main thing. And I'm going to walk through just a couple quick slides on content. One of the places I like to start is going to be in the data that we already have. We already know if we go into our Google ads that there's search terms that have converted, not keywords. Keywords are a combination of multiple search terms and misspells and variations. We're talking about the actual search term that somebody punched into Google and that caused our ad to appear and made them click on it, right? Made them want to click on it. So we look at those and we figure out which ones actually became clients or customers, and we incorporate those terms first. So that way, when the boss or the interviewer asks the question, why would you choose these search terms? You say, because our data showed that they converted into customers. And while they might not have the highest search volume, we have enough data to know that these keywords actually produce customers for us. So we want to start there. And you want to make sure you're addressing it at every phase. I mentioned the term article writer earlier when we were looking at how to clean white shoes. So this is important to understand what the user is actually looking for. We were helping an attorney who helps folks that want to be whistleblowers at large healthcare organizations. And the page was for healthcare whistleblower. And when you went to the page, the first paragraph was, what is a healthcare whistleblower? And it's like, really? That's not what your customer is looking for. Your customer already knew what they were looking for when they hit this page. They're looking to figure out why you're the best person to do the job. And so it's really important to understand what it is the user is looking for and the intent of the keyword so that, we're solving what they really want. This is one of my favorite things Google did back in the day around their micro moments. And this is stuck with us because we know at the beginning level, when somebody's performing a search, it's those I want to know moments: how, where, what, who, when. They're not necessarily looking to buy just yet. So by addressing that type of content first, it enables us to do some remarketing, think remarketing potential, but it also builds brand awareness and attracts links to our website so that we're not tempted to go buy links or do something to manipulate search results. And here's that example of how to clean white shoes. Tools that you could use for this include Answer the Public, which just got acquired by Ubersuggest. And I just threw out a big shout out to my friend Neil Patel last week when he got the deal, and I'm super excited for him and where he's going to take this new tool. But basically, you go to Answer the Public, you put in a word like shoes, and it gives you a breakdown of who, what, why, when, where, all of those different ideas based on how people are searching. And I believe it's kind of like a scrape of the auto suggest. So it's kind of like real-time search insights. And while there's no specific search volume data, you can export that and drop it right into the Google Keyword Planner to get that data. Here's a fun example of what we did with Upper Funnel with public storage. And it could have been better. There could have been some things that they put more effort into. The curation booster, for example, the copy steps, when they were doing it originally, they copied the whole page. And what we wanted them to do was copy the steps so that when people are performing searches at some point, we might actually get that featured answer. Here's an old page that I like to use an example still. I think it's still like number 2 or 3 in Google. I don't know. title tag principles, but notice how I solved for the actual intent. They really care about title tag principles? Not really. What are they trying to do? They're trying to improve their click-through rates, and they're trying to improve their SEO ranking. So I solved for their intent, not just their keyword. And then you put that into a calendar, once a week, twice a week. With Meineke, it was every Tuesday. They launched a really strong post on the difference between standard and synthetic oil, how to jumpstart your car battery the right way, all sorts of really helpful keyword mined content that got onto a calendar, and every week they wrote a page and then they launched a page. They wrote a page and they launched a page. Nearly 500,000 visits later after 18 months and some well over 200 links, we proved that it worked. But it is the long run, and it isn't something like advertising where you're going to see results right away. It took a year for us to see that kind of volume, and it was worth it. It paid off. Here's that example. This was funny too, because it actually crashed the web server on a certain day. It turned out that day was Coachella, and people were searching for how to jumpstart your car battery. So be careful with some of the content you create, because you might drive a lot of traffic. And by the way, that's going to affect the overall site performance. When you look at conversion rate, like, yeah, our conversion rate was 5%, and all of a sudden we're converting at 1%. What happened? And if you segment your content by upper and lower funnel, you'll know that the lower funnel didn't change. It's still at that same percentage, but because you're driving so much traffic from that upper funnel, it skews the site-wide aggregate conversion rate. So make sure you're segmenting your content so that there's no panic when your conversion rate does go down after you start deploying a lot of this upper funnel content. And then that position 0 I had mentioned, this is sort of the new SEO. Somebody was doing a whole podcast about it, and they were saying, what was it, answer engine SEO or something like that. Like, hey, let's focus on getting position 0 now. How do we do that? So I'm going to provide some ways that we can do that, and remind everybody that I believe 70% of the voice queries that you perform are the extract from the featured snippet that appears in Google. So we really want that featured snippet, not just because it's position 0, but because it's what's going to be sent back to us from our voice assistant, whether we're using Alexa Hub or whatever. And you can see this whole, I'm not going to say it and kick off my devices, but it's more than doubled in 5 years. I think they're trying to take some of this data away from us, because I just did a recent search, and you can see that it's still gone. You can't go to Google Trends now and put this in and actually see how many or what the interest is over time. I think they're trying to hide some of that. You don't see it in your analytics either. So I think it's just some special thing they're doing to not let people know what that data is, and I hope to see it at some point. But here's what you could do. You could go into some of your historical data and look for these hints. The hints are find. You might even still see an okay in there, here and there. What is? There's another okay. Find me. What are near me? Find. So you could see those themes. If you see them in your search console, you see them in your analytics, and it's not going to be as much, especially with the new Google Analytics. But if you go back in time, it could still give you some insights as to how people are using voice. And that plays into the conversational content you'll actually have on your website. So here's more of those that you can play with and explore later on. This was taken from Statistica, I think was the site I grabbed this from. But this is the number of digital voice assistants used worldwide with predictions of where it's going to be in 2024. And you can see that massive growth in billions in terms of voice assistants that are being used. I also read a study recently that showed that 180 voice assistant technology devices are being shipped every minute across the world. So voice is not going anywhere. Our challenge is teaching our consumers how to interact with our business through voice search. And I don't think businesses are doing a good job of that. They're doing a good job of using it to say how they can find you or to kick off a radio station on Sirius XM, but they're not teaching you how to engage in commerce yet. Here was something that was really interesting at one of the Google I/Os that got me excited about voice. This is a voice conversation that happened where they were asking for prices, and the voice assistant came back and said, "Where are you looking to go?" I'm like, oh my God, I'm talking to her from the movie. This is so creepy. I want to go to New York City. Well, when would you like to return? And you say August 10th, and then it spits back some costs for you. It says, would you like us to book this? Yeah. Like, holy mackerel, this is where the digital marketing world is going, where we get to a place where we start untethering ourselves from our phone and we start looking back at pictures of history of everybody walking around doing this, and we're not going to be doing that anymore. It's changing, it's evolving. And as businesses, as teachers, we need to be aware of it and start planning ahead for it. VR technology is also becoming huge, and it's slowed a bit. You think that with the pandemic, everyone would be turned into their VR systems, and maybe for some video games, but second worlds that were supposed to come out, Star Ramba or something, and some others never launched. They kind of flopped a bit. But there's that whole Ready Player One scenario where we're going to get to a place where we're not going to want to take off our headset to perform a search. We're going to want to use our voice in our VR system. So here's how I'd suggest starting with voice. As you're teaching this to students and talking about how they can start getting into voice search in particular, start by claiming your business in the Action Console. Super, super easy to do. Doesn't take more than a few minutes. Doesn't cost anything. It's a very fun thing to geek around with as you get into the system and start playing around. Every business should at least claim their business information and provide some basic answers to common questions that you get from customer service. And this is kind of a quick little walkthrough of just how ridiculously easy it is to create a project in Actions. It's evolved a little bit from this particular GIF, but it's gotten easier and easier and easier. And that's it. Boom, you've created a project. So here's your project. You decide how it's being invoked, or how your business is going to be invoked, like talk to name of brand. Again, businesses aren't teaching their consumers how to use the talk to invocation so that they can interact with their customers yet, but it's coming. You can add it to your website. I love the idea, and Google's been doing this for years, of swapping out your magnifying glass for a microphone for mobile users. So they hit the microphone, use the Google Voice API, and they can be hands-free basically, or just basically one tap, as opposed to having to use their keyboard to be able to voice in the query that they want to use for your internal search box. And then don't fear the algorithm updates. We talked about this at the beginning. This is something that so many brands do wrong. Hey, there was an algorithm update May 25th. Oh my God, our rankings went down. Let's start making a bunch of changes. Well, the rankings changed because Google's refreshing the search results with what they think are going to be more helpful listings. What happens over the course of 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes a little bit longer, depending on how few searches there are for a keyword, they'll start to figure out that those new results aren't very helpful and that people are going past them to the old results, which might include you, and you'll come right back up to the top. So the one thing I want to really recommend to those folks who are talking to students about how to handle updates, the best thing to do is just to wait for the update to finish doing what it's doing, and then analyze the results several weeks later. Look for clues too. So there's all sorts of search engine journal, search engine land. There's Mozcast. There's another one, rank something, I can't remember, but there's all sorts of things that you can pay attention to, maybe even once a day as you're drinking your coffee. Just check to see what's new, what's happening. I use Feedly, and if you hit me up after the event, I'll give you my little Feedly file you can upload if you like using Feedly as well. So every morning I get a big list of all the news posts that are happening right now in search. I scan them, look for anything interesting, and I'm done for the day. And if you want, as a thought leader in digital marketing, as an evolving thought leader in digital marketing and authority, you could actually use something like Buffer to schedule shares of some of those top posts that you find interesting through that Feedly integration. Click share, and boom, you're sharing that in social, and people are going, wow, you really are keeping up with all this stuff. So, hey, there's my invocation right there. Thanks for listening. I guess we'll open it up for questions, and hopefully you found the future of search and all the content interesting.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. Yes, if you have questions, put those in the chat. A few that we had come in. So first, more on your point about solving for attribution. Mm-hmm. Should SEO and SEM go hand in hand, or should they be treated as separate entities?
I think hand in hand would be amazing. I like using paid search pages to test new ways of designing the page, and then incorporating those designs into organic once I see some really good data on how the page converts better. The display reports that you get from your display advertising and PPC are link building opportunities. Why not get links from sites that are already sending great high converting traffic. The search term reports that you get from paid ads are also incredible, because now you can start to rank organically if you incorporate some of those search terms in your copy. If you go to Google Search Console and drill into a URL that you're using in Google Ads, and then you take that URL and get the search terms that correspond to it and put them in exact match in your ad group on search, you watch your quality scores go from like 6 to 10. I guess I can stop sharing. You watch your quality scores go from like 6 to 10 pretty quickly, because Google already knows that those pages are relevant to those search terms based on its crawl of the page. So I think having those conversations at least once a month between the two team members, because I know paid search specialists can be a little introverted. They like to wear their headsets and just write ads and play with bidding strategies all day. And the SEO person is a little more extroverted, because they're trying to get links and test things, and and so getting the two team members together to be able to collaborate can be challenging. So I say do something fun and interesting and incentivizing to get them in a room and brainstorm ideas. Provide ideas by doing some searches for how to marry paid and organic. Put those into an agenda and go through that once a month with each team member to see how they can be helping and supporting each other.
Awesome, thank you. So you talked about some of the non-traditional search forms that are emerging, voice and through VR and things like that. Well, are there any that you're particularly excited about or watching closely?
I like watching the evolving appearance of search results more than anything else. The voice search is important. We need to start dabbling in it and at least putting 10 to 15%, probably closer to 10 for now, of our time into voice search and planning ahead. But I'm super interested in how Google's shaping what we see in search results now. It's not blue links and black text anymore. It's image carousels. I saw some category pages on e-commerce websites that had image thumbnails underneath it for each of the different products that were in that category. And so I go to my client and I'm like, hey, we're the only listing out here that doesn't have this carousel. We need to reverse engineer these pages and make sure we're using the right markup, and because they really stand out. They provide a rich result to users and are probably getting all the clicks, even if they still aren't outranking us. At some point, they probably will. So I think paying attention to the diversity of the results and addressing what you see. Hey, do you see a video? Great, add a video to your page and video markup. Are they using images? Great, let's create our own images, not stock images where the binary is already mapped in Google system, but let's create our own images that are useful and helpful. We did that last year with a study we did on location pages. We studied 300 location pages. We worked with Now Sourcing and created this really cool infographic that shows what the page should look like sort of like a mock-up of what your page should look like. And we got Web Pro News and Bright Local and Site Pro News and Social Media Today or something. They're all sharing that because they thought that was super helpful, because it was a data-driven graphic and it was unique. Now it shows up in image search, which is pretty cool. And then what else are there? Are there questions that are being asked that we can put in our FAQ page section of the page? Are there star ratings? What's appearing in the search results that we can add to our page so that we hit every single thing that Google seems to want to display?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Yes, we have that one that just came in from Betsy. What's your recommendation on how much to teach a general marketing or PR ad student about SEO? How deep do you go to be useful, given everything else there is to learn?
Sure. I believe that when all these students get a chance to look at analytics, they're going to recognize that organic search is the primary driver of all traffic to the website. There isn't enough prioritization around all things that we're doing SEO, and everything can have an impact on SEO. Our PR and outreach could generate links and mention key search terms that we want to appear for. They could affect the knowledge graph if we can get a snippet of an answer that we have on our website into press releases that go out. That could benefit us getting that featured snippet. The keywords, again, that go into the research of how those press releases are written. I would say that everything that you do in digital marketing can have an impact on SEO. It's figuring out how to tack that on as an incremental attribute to that topic. So SEO to me is always a subtopic of every other medium, not just because I live and breathe in it, but because I know that the potential of it. I've seen clients that took our advice and did commercials where they said, learn more about us, search Google for, XYZ company. And you've seen billboards as you're driving on the freeway that just have a name, right? And you're like, what the heck? Why isn't there any context? What the heck? It's because you're going to go out and you're going to search for them. So they're using offline advertising as a way to influence search behavior signals that help them move up search rankings. So I think you can incorporate SEO into everything that you're doing in one way or another. And if you find a challenge where you feel like you can't, hit me up and I can see if I can find an angle for you.
Awesome. And as a follow-up to that, as our last question before we end here, knowing that students will, be graduating probably into a market that's different than what it is right now with SEO, how do you prepare them for that? How do you teach them SEO and marketing generally to go into a field that's going to be so
Sure.
rapidly changing?
Yeah, I think an overview class or a 101 is always going to be really helpful. I think if they take some time and just address those principles and say, as part of what we think your need, to be successful in digital marketing of any kind, is to know that from an SEO standpoint, we need to have the most helpful pages, the most visible pages, and we need to constantly be increasing our click-through rates and search results. So I would say the best practice here is that every month we need to challenge the improvements on those 3 areas. Regardless of what digital marketing we happen to be doing at any given point, from an SEO standpoint, if we're improving our pages, conversion rates and bounce rates, etc., page speed, and we're improving our visibility to those pages off the website by getting links to them, and we're improving our search behavior signals with data, and everyone's accountable to that every month, then they're going to see huge improvements in the number of sales, the number of leads, and of course organic traffic.
Awesome. Sounds like a good topic for our next webinar. 3 things you need to be doing every month for your
I love it.
SEO strategy.
Count me in.